I am here with Amber Leibrock, PFL featherweight semifinalist, back in action August 18th, New York City. She's going to be taking on Marina Mokhnakina in one of the two PFL women's featherweight semifinals. So, Amber, first of all, ahead of this one, how is everything feeling? How's camp been going in?
It's been going great. Everything's felt really good, even since the last fight was the way it was, but I think I bounced back pretty quick. I got into training. It took me a little bit longer than the last one just because I had to let my eye kind of settle down a little bit because I had a pretty gnarly black eye. But other than that, everything's been great. It's been an amazing camp. We've been going hard. We've been, fixing them holes and just getting ready for these semifinals.
When you mention going hard in camp, does camp change going into the semifinals? Because after this one, you have a little more time off maybe than you did during the regular season.
I mean, I feel like the intensity just stays the same, like I'm always training 100%, like just always training to fight the best in the world, be the best I can. As much as like everyone wants to win and all those things, I think for me personally, fighting is a lot about like self-growth, and I really like knowledge. I really like to learn. So for me, the intensity stays the same always. Like I'm just going as hard as I possibly can, like doing the best I can, doing the most that I can, but also listening to my body. It has been three camps in a row. This is the first time pretty much in my entire career I've had to do something like this. So also being smart and listening to my body when I need to, but pushing as hard as I possibly can for sure.
Well, good stuff. Definitely listen to the body. I wanted to talk about your regular season experience. Like you said, the last one didn't go your way. The first one was huge. Overall, what are your thoughts on, how the season went for you?
It was amazing. Like, even though the last one was the way it was, it's been an amazing experience when because at the end of this all, like when I'm old lady, I won't be like, yeah, I won this one, I lost this one, blah, 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 blah. It will be just about the journey, the experience, what it was all about. And for me, this season has just been like everything I could dream of. It's been everything I've been working towards, everything I've been fighting so hard for. The first one was amazing. The second one kind of sucked, but at the end of the day, it was still an amazing experience. Like every experience with PFL, it's just been absolutely amazing. And I'm extremely blessed and grateful and thankful to be a part of it.
Is it, I mean, MMA is a bit of a roller coaster at the best of times, but is it especially so when you come off a big win like that, then be on the other side of it and now going back into a big fight in the semifinals?
Well, I say this a lot, I really don't live anywhere too long, wins or losses. And I think that that is just kind of the mentality to have. Like, of course, be proud and celebrate yourself, but you don't want to live in that high too long because we can see like how low it can get. And for at least I know for me personally, who battles with, depression and mental health stuff and like all these things, like it's very important to keep it kind of level because if you get too high and then you crash too low, like you can end up in some really deep dark places in your mind and in your soul. So for me, I try not to live anywhere too long, but it's all been just it's been a roller coaster but in a great one, and I'm glad to be on it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And you've talked about the mental game before. I wanted to ask you about a quote you had on your Instagram somewhat recently, and it said, "Things fall apart so they can come together in ways you'll never imagine." Was that just in reference to fighting? Was that life in general?
That's life in general. That's fighting. That's life in general. That's, this year has been crazy for me and personally in the gym, all these things. So that's just life in general. Sometimes, you might be dating a guy and it fall apart for something else better to come along. My fight with Larissa kind of didn't go the way I wanted it to, but it kicked me back in a freaking high gear and is like put me in such a good place mentally, physically, emotionally for the semifinals. It's really upped my gratitude because not a lot of people get that opportunity. Usually you win when you lose when you're out. Like that's it. So for me, my gratitude is so high. I've also really dived deep into my faith. So that has also been something. And I feel like if everything didn't kind of come crashing down for me with the Larissa fight and some personal things after that, like it wouldn't have forced me to really take that leap and really dive into my faith and really put, Allah as the number one in my life and just fight for Allah and fight for, the people that can't really fight for themselves. And yeah, just put my mind in a completely different spot for sure.
I'm not going to pry into your personal life any, but I know you've talked about kind of the mental side before, giving yourself some self-care, that sort of thing. Is that like an ongoing process for you? I know you mentioned your faith there, and how do you go about shoring up your mental game?
Well, I'm always working with some kind of mental coach. So I'm still with my hypnotherapist, Richard Hart, which is amazing. But I have a really good support system. My best friend, Jessie Jess, her and I, like, we've been on this healing journey with each other for like the last 2 years. And we're really accountable with one another. We hold each other like, you fucked up, bro. Like, this was your fault. And I think it's very important to have people who are honest with you and not just like, oh, like, don't hurt, you're already in a soft spot. Like, oh, don't want to hurt you. No, because sometimes we are our own worst enemy. And diving into my faith and having my faith be my number one priority at the moment, like obviously like fighting and all that stuff, but on the outside of it all, like having good faith, believing in Allah, doing everything for him. And that has really just set my mental game into a whole different place because I've struggled with my faith my entire life, just with the way I grew up and stuff like that. So, and it's been something I've always felt very disconnected from. So now, like being connected with my faith and really diving into it has put my mind and my mental and my soul and my heart like all into one. And it's been a really, really great journey for sure.
Well, that's good to hear. You mentioned Miss Jessica Rose Clark. Of course, I've spoken to her before. Has she been a big part of this camp, and who have you been working with for this one?
Jesse is a big part of my life. We're not necessarily each other's training partners. It's just better for, like our friendship and like our size and stuff like that. So, but Jessie Jess is a huge part of my life. She is a staple in my life. She is my everything when it comes to the people I turn to. Like she is my number one. But for a lot of this camp, I've been training a lot with Adam Piccolotti. He's been my like number one coach, right? Or not my number one coach, but my number one kind of like training partner. He's been giving me a lot of one-on-ones. He's been giving me a lot of personal time. Obviously it's more work. He does his own thing over at AKA and CSA and all that stuff. But for me, he's really helped me out so, so much. And I've got people in my gym like Tim, who's another big part. He's always like working with me. And yeah, I kind of just try to get my work with and Georgie's another one. But I really, this camp, it's not like I have like one specific person that I like to train with. It's like if you're tough, if you're hard, if I know like you're going to beat me in certain areas, like those are the kind of people I'm trying to train with. I've been doing a lot of grappling, been doing a lot of jujitsu, been doing a lot of wrestling. Obviously, Marina is a world-class grappler, sambo. So yeah, for me, it's not necessarily just having one specific person to train with. It's kind of trying to get it from everybody because I believe that you can just learn from everybody. I do pick people though that are better than me in areas. I do pick people that aren't going to take it easy on me. I do train with a lot of guys. So I do also try not to go with too big of ones that are just going to like hurt me. But I do, I get big brothered by people a lot. And it actually is good for me because it keeps me tough. It keeps that mental fortitude in there. And it really like there's nothing these chicks can do to me that it hasn't already been done or that I don't see in the gym every day.
Well, you mentioned Adam, who I think a lot of people know from his Bellator run, and you mentioned, like you said, training with a lot of guys. Is that in part because it's harder to find 145-pound women? There's not a ton of you out there who are actively fighting?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of us out there, but we're kind of spread across the country, or across the world. There's a lot of foreigners who are like 145 kind of bigger chicks. Here in the States, it is really hard to find chicks to train with. And you got to be careful too, because there's a potential that one day you're going to fight them because the division is so small. So for me, I do run into that a lot. It is hard for me to find girls to train with. But I've been doing it for the last couple years now, and I know some people are like, "Oh, training with guys really like messed me up. I'm so happy to be training with girls again." I think I'm kind of the opposite. Sometimes I can be a little too rough, and I can be a little too much, especially when girls are like smaller and things like that. So it's better. I get better work when I go with guys that are my same size, or tad bit smaller or tad bit bigger. But yeah, it is kind of because there isn't a lot of chicks my size, and there isn't a lot of like really like chicks my size that are trying to like get down, like bang it out and grapple hard, wrestle hard. So it is what it is.
Well, hey, like you said, you get some big brothering out of it. Let's talk about this fight. You mentioned the sambo that Marina possesses. I mean, what are you expecting to see from her in this?
That I'm expecting her to force the grapple. I'm expecting her to start pretty quickly. I'm expecting her to, go shoot and try to take me down, and, try to do her thing that she continues to do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. From my last couple fights, you can tell, like, it's not that I'm a slow starter, but I think I've just kind of been trying to fill things out too much, because I'm definitely not a slow starter. But I think that she's going to try to capitalize on that by like rushing a little bit and coming at me hard and really trying to force his grapple. But what people don't understand is, like, I've been doing jujitsu a lot longer than I've been striking. I started grappling. I was doing tournaments, all the way up until I got my purple belt, and I decided to just focus on MMA. And there's not one grappling tournament I went into that I didn't walk out with a silver or gold medal. So I think that this is a good opportunity for me to show some stuff as well. Like, you want to think that you can just out grapple me. I promise you, you can't. So yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a good fight.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And then you have the other side of the tournament bracket. You're obviously very familiar with Larissa, and she's fighting Elena. How do you see that fight playing out? And do you have any preference as to who you would fight in the final? Do you want to get that one back against Larissa?
I mean, absolutely, I want that one back against Larissa, and whether it's in the final or later on, like, I definitely want that one back, because now rewatching the fight, there's like inches away from connecting. And if I would have hit her the way she hit me, like, it would have been a different story. But I don't know, it's kind of hard to bet against Larissa, since she's already knocked out Alina twice. I think Alina's a little bit of an emotional fighter, so that could play into the favor of Larissa, because Larissa's pretty cool, calm, and like steady in there. But yeah, I don't know, because Elena's also on the path. Like, she's got the same mentality I think I do. It's like, girl, I'm gonna chase you down till I get that victory back. And Elena's a really tough chick. She's freaking, big, strong. She's been training really hard. So I don't care which one wins. I want them both eventually anyways. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say which way that one's gonna go. But you know, Larissa's the favorite for sure.
And the other thing I want to ask you about, I mean, this is another step closer towards a title, towards $1 million. And you fought for some big promotions before, but this is obviously going to be the biggest payday potentially of your career coming up. Is it hard not to start thinking about that at this point when you're so close to that goal?
No, one fight at a time, one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. Yes, $1 million is great, but like, for me, you get the glory, and then everything else comes after that, because even just this next fight will be the most money I make when I win, will be the most money I've ever made in a fight. So yeah, I try not to think too far ahead, which I think I did with the Larissa fight. I was thinking like a couple fights ahead instead of just being in the moment and being right there. So right now, there's nothing else more important to me than this fight and Marina. And so yeah, just one foot in front of the other for me right now.
Good stuff. Well, I'll ask you one more then before I let you go. Just give us your prediction for this fight. How do you see this playing out August 18th?
Uh, I'm going for the finish. I'm going for the finish. Whether it's the first, second, third, I'm going for the finish. I think it's going to be a banger. I think we're both going to come out hot. I think we're both going to try to execute our game plans. And yeah, it's going to be the one that gets to it first. It's going to really take this. But yeah, I'm coming for the finish. I want to take her head, whether I choke it or knock it out, knock it off. Like, I'm coming for the finish.
Wow, looking forward to this one. The semifinals are upon us. Amber, thanks very much for the time today. Looking forward to
Thank
the fight
you.
August 18th. You're welcome. You have a great
Appreciate
day.
it. You too. Bye bye.
Take care.